Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2016 Michigan football season. You'll notice that the room we're in is different from the room we used in last year's videos because the room I usually use is not available right now. And, well, this is kind of meant to be a quick and dirty thing, so here we are. Um, here we are, the 2016 Michigan football season. You're also probably wondering why I'm waiting until the third week to do one of these little recap videos. And the reason is because I had the same take to my reaction to Michigan's first two wins was basically the same thing. Eh, I mean, let's be honest. Was anybody really excited by those wins? I mean, was anybody in Ann Arbor just high-fiving each other and going, "Hey, we knocked off Hawaii and UCF. We did it. We're going to win a championship now. We knocked off teams that barely even qualify as D1 teams." Yeah, nothing much to get out of those wins. Although, having said that, making Scott Frost the saltiest man on earth was pretty nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to see the boys play. Those games were pretty exciting. They were also very much predictable. But that's what happens when you don't play quality opponent until this week. Thanks, Dave Brandon. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about mostly the Colorado game today. And we'll start with a brief recap of this game. As the old saying goes, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. And this game did not get off to a good start by any means. I will admit that I looked at this game as kind of sort of being a trap game because Colorado, they're not bad, not scrubs. You know, they're a respectable team. This is easily a 7-5 outfit, although we'll have to see how healthy their quarterback is. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But while I thought the 20-point spread was a bit misleading, I didn't expect this to be a game where the outcome was ever really in doubt. I certainly didn't expect Michigan to be down 2 scores after 3 minutes, but, give credit where credit is due. Colorado was able to catch Michigan's defense off guard with their up-tempo offense, which, you're coming in and you want to make a statement. That's what you want to do. They were also able to get a fumble recovery off of Wilton Speight for a score. Also kind of banged up his arm a bit, so he's playing hurt for the rest of the games. He still put up some very respectable numbers, but we will see if he's good to go against Penn State in the days to come. But after the first quarter, the defense kind of said, okay, you know what? Just enough of this. And they held Colorado scoreless, save for the first play of the third quarter, where their quarterback, who was basically playing on one leg, managed a very, very impressive 70-yard touchdown pass, and then immediately had to come out of the game. But Michigan quickly got the lead back in the next series, and, well, that was pretty much all she wrote. All right, so that's your very run-of-the-mill game recap. So, with that in mind, I want to talk about what we observed over this non-conference schedule. First of all, the offense. Let's talk about Wilton Speight here for a second. I mean, if I asked anyone last year who the starting quarterback would be for Michigan in 2016, nobody would have said Wilton Speight. I mean, here's a guy who redshirts in 2014, becomes pretty disinterested in playing football, and let's be honest, if you're on that 2014 squad, I would not blame you. But he sticks around for the coaching change. His only notoriety, really, during the lead-up to 2015 is a clip on HBO where Harbaugh's cussing him out. And then Jake Rudock goes down against Minnesota. And Michigan fans everywhere put their hands together, pray to the football gods, oh, please, please help us out here. And Speight gets the job done. And then comes spring ball this year, and we find that, oh my goodness, he's toe-to-toe with John O'Korn, the heir apparent to Jake Rudock, the man that Jim Harbaugh has been raving about for the last year or so. Wilton Speight's actually toe-to-toe with him. And then, fast forward to now, and he is the starting quarterback for your Michigan Wolverines. Wow. 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 What a story. But like I said, Speight didn't have his best outing today. He overthrew quite a few receivers. He got locked on as well. There were several instances where he threw at Amara Darboh and Jake Butt when they were in coverage, which is not your ideal solution. And he did, of course, have that fumble, which led to the touchdown. But he still put up decent numbers. He's had a pretty good performance for the first 3 games of the season. He's only had the 1 pick, which was his very first pass as a Michigan quarterback, but nonetheless. And he's put up, I think, 8 touchdowns it is now. So, yeah, definitely a pretty good start for one Wilton Speight. As for the rest of the offense, Jake Butt is still a monster tight end. Amara Darboh and J.U. Chestnut are still 2 very dangerous wide receivers, as well as running backs, as we saw them employed on the jet sweep, which was used today against Colorado. I absolutely love the jet sweep. That's the kind of play where just, if it goes right, it's just fantastic. Davion Smith is your elite running back, and he actually had a pretty good day today as well. Broke off a couple of big runs. One of them was a 40-yard run for a touchdown. Ty Isaac also saw some action today. He got limited snaps in the preseason, but he played a pretty big role today. So nice to see he's finally working his way into the rotation, especially considering he got like maybe 2 snaps last year. The big story, though, is Chris Evans. Chris Evans showed a lot of flash in the Hawaii game. This kid is absolutely phenomenal. He wasn't as effective against UCF or Colorado, which is understandable because he is a freshman. He's got the talent, but he's still a freshman. He still is going to make those rookie mistakes. But he's definitely got a very, very bright future ahead of him, and it's going to be really fascinating to see how he turns out. Drake Johnson is... We have not seen Drake Johnson yet out of the fullback rotation. Apparently he's injured again. I have absolutely no idea who decided to... It was a good idea to let someone drive a forklift near him again, but whatever. I'm not implying that I was run over by a forklift again. I'm just saying, after last time, I figured just keep the man away from anything regarding forklifts, but nonetheless. But the fullbacks are Khalid Hill and I'm trying to think who else is fullback today. Oh, Khalid Hudson, who actually went down to play with an injury. We'll see how he turns out there. But yeah, we're definitely into the second year of the Harbaugh offense, and we're seeing it come into form now. It's not like last year where we were just kind of closing our eyes and hope for the best. Now we know this team has a very, very, very potent offense. I mean, granted, it's not going to run to score up like a spread offense would, but it will put points on the board. And if everything works in the right ways, then we're going to see this team get some pretty big results against less quality opponents. The thing about the Harbaugh offense isn't necessarily that it's not one element. It's a mixture of various elements that are designed to keep the opponent unbalanced. Like today, for example, there was actually a couple of drives where Michigan actually went to a no-huddle spread type of offense, and they got about, I think, 20, 40 yards out of that. I was just shocked. I was like, it was only for 2 snaps, but I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Are we back in 2009 again? What's going on here? So, yeah, the offense has been pretty conservative, though, for these games because, well, frankly, you didn't really need to bring out all the bag of tricks for these 3 opponents. Had to go to some of them for Colorado, but certainly not against Hawaii or UCF. So I like to think that Harbaugh and OC Tim Drevno are holding their cards close to the vest. And as we get through the meat of the Big Ten schedule, especially as we get to the quality matchups, we'll start to see some more of the wrinkles that they're throwing into the offense. The defense, a lot of people are going to look at the defensive performance of the UCF game as well as this game, and they're going to be alarmed. What I would say is just pump the brakes a bit, because first of all, the defense is missing 3 key players, namely Taco Charlton, Brian Monet, and Jordan Lewis. And those 3 back would improve this defense exponentially. Like, for example, the 2 deep balls that Colorado threw today for touchdowns. I got a feeling that if Jordan Lewis was covering those receivers, they would not have been touchdowns. And we do not have a timetable yet for when they'll be back. It depends on the extent of their injury, which Harbaugh was being pretty tight-lipped about. But the hope is that they'll be back in time for the conference slate, or at least the meat of the conference slate. But even without them, the defense is actually looking pretty good. I don't think it's going to be as lethal as last year. Like, I don't think we should expect three straight shutouts because, mainly because this is a new defensive coordinator in Don Brown, and it's going to take a year to kind of adjust to his system. What we've seen from his system so far, though, is really, really interesting and really exciting. It's a very, very blitz-heavy defense. He's frequently rushing guys at the quarterback, which is designed to make him as uncomfortable as possible. And Colorado was able to hold their own for the most part in the early games, but as the game went on and Michigan's defenders started getting more pressure to the quarterback and through the defensive lines, you could tell that their quarterback became more and more uncomfortable and starting to rush his decisions. And then, of course, once he was down with his leg injury, well, that was pretty much it. But the thing that's out to me, though, is their mentality regarding the ball. The motto of the defense is, you see the ball, go get the ball. So you're going to have an instance where you're going to have, say, a running back cut out of the backfield, and you will have 3 or 5 guys all just come in on him, just swarm him, tackle for loss. I mean, that's not something you see in a lot of defenses. So it's going to be fun to watch here. As for individual players, well, you have Mike McCray has made a name for himself as the captain. He's not the captain, I'm sorry. That's Chris Wormley. But Mike McCray has really made a big name for himself as a standout defender. He's had a couple of pass breakup attempts as well as, I believe, an interception. Chase Winovich has gotten a start as well against UCF and put up a really, really good game. Saw some more action today against Colorado. Also put up good numbers. Rashawn Gary. Wow, this kid is absolutely the real deal. He saw limited snaps against Hawaii. He got some action on UCF. He had a pretty good day today against Colorado. This guy basically eats the quarterback. Like, if Rashawn Gary gets to the quarterback, it's over. It's over. And I saw a good example today is when a play was when Gary was coming up behind Colorado's quarterback, and he was actually being held. Like, he was being held to the ground. And by the way, get used to it. Rashawn Gary is never going to get a holding call. He has been held on virtually every snap he's been in, and because he's so freakishly large, I don't think anyone's ever going to call a holding on him. But anyway, he gets the Colorado quarterback. He only gets one arm on the quarterback, and he's still able to drag him to the ground. It's just, I mean, this kid, he's still a rookie. It's still a little raw. There's still a couple rookie mistakes he's going to make. But for the most part, I am beyond amazed with what Rashawn Gary has done. And then you have Jabril Peppers. I mean, what can I say? I mean, okay, first of all, in regards to today's particular game, Jabril Peppers won this game for us. Like, make no mistake, if Jabril Peppers was not on this Michigan squad, we would have lost this game. Because he did just about everything. He got some pretty good pass breakups on the defense. He got multiple tackles for loss, multiple sacks as well on the quarterback. And then you get to his special teams duties. He had some really, really good returns. He finally took a kickoff back to the house, which proved to be the ultimate game-winning score, if you will. And I was sitting in the end forget which end zone it was. I don't think it was south end zone, no. But I was sitting in the end zone where he took it back, and I just had a perfect view of the whole thing. And wow, it's just, you hear him talk about how he's wanted to take one back for so long, and to see him finally do it, it was incredible. It's just, I don't think I'm exaggerating much when I say that Jabril Peppers is going to be in serious conversation this year for the Heisman Trophy. So that's the defense. Special teams. Apparently Chris Partridge is a revelation as a special teams coach. Who knew? I mean, we have had, in the last 2 games, 4 blocked kicks, or blocked punts rather, one of which was returned today for a score. And in the UCF game, 2 blocked field goals. Now, I recognize, level of talent, but still, for this team to make those kind of plays on special teams, that's a huge difference maker in terms of getting points on the board or getting good field position. And not to mention, of course, when you have Jabril Peppers returning punts, well, Yeah, that's a highlight reel in its own right. The one complaint I will have for special teams is, good God, can we get Kenny Allen some help, please? I mean, Kenny Allen is pulling triple duty this year. He is kickoffs, field goals, and punts. Now, he had to punt precisely 0 times against Hawaii. I think he punted maybe 3 or 4 times against UCF, maybe. But he punted it quite a bit today against Colorado, and you could tell he was getting pretty winded out. His punts were not the greatest, I'll be honest with you. Didn't have that great hang time or distance or anything like that, and it gave Colorado probably a little bit better field position than they should have had otherwise. But you can just tell he was getting pretty winded there. He even missed 2 field goals today. I mean, I can't remember the last time he missed a field goal, let alone 2. So he can only do so much out there. I mean, somebody get Kenny Allen some help. I don't care what we got to do. I don't care if we got to put someone else in a punter or whatever. Just get the man some help. Okay, so that's my overview of this team. So now let's talk about, a brief summary of what I think this season's going to be. Quite a few people have been picking Michigan to make the playoff. Some have even gone so far as to say they will win the national championship. Me personally, I think the way it's going right now, as well as based on how the rest of the Big Ten is shaping out, where there is now a very, very clear separation between Michigan and Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten. Don't give me Iowa, okay? Because Iowa's exactly who we thought they were. They are a fraud. I mean, they lost today to an FCS team. That tells you enough. Iowa is fraudulent. Do not buy into the hype. They were in the Big Ten championship game last year because the West had to send somebody. In a related story, Michigan State, this will depend on how they handle their business against Notre Dame tonight. And so far, they're doing a pretty decent job of that. But by all accounts, it looks like Michigan State is taking a step back this year. This is really a make-or-break year for Michigan State because I think if they can't at least put up a respectable campaign, then we could start seeing kind of the backward shift into the mediocrity and that's what I'm looking for here. Into the mediocrity that they've had historically for years. Now, again, that's not to say they're ever going to be scrubs because Mark D'Antonio is too good of a coach to let that happen. But where you're going to have a case like last year where Michigan State basically ended up in the college football playoff by accident? No, I don't think it's going to happen. So anyway, as far as Michigan is concerned, I think they have a pretty good chance of running the table in the conference slate because of the quality of teams they're going up against, not to mention the fact they have a very, very, very favorable schedule. Their first road game is in October, and it's against Rutgers, how they're still a Division I team, I have no idea. And then after that, the road games they have are against Michigan State, Iowa, and Ohio State. And that's 3 very, very, very tough matches. But I'm leaning toward a win for Michigan State because I think we can all agree Michigan State and Michigan were at pretty even footing last year, and they basically needed divine intervention to win. So again, not to say that Michigan State's not going to be prepared for Michigan when we go to East Lansing. I'm sure Mark D'Antonio's going to be coached up for them. But in terms of raw talent, athletic ability, I have to give the edge to Michigan. Because at the end of the day, we have Jake Butts, Jabril Peppers, Rashawn Gary, J.U. Chesson, and others, and they don't. I mean, they have Malik McDowell, they have Tyler O'Connor, I mean, they got some guys, but I don't know if their guys are better than our guys. I'm just not seeing that. Iowa, I'm not getting as nervous about this game as other people are. Maybe when we're close to that game, I might get a bit more nervous, but I think Michigan's going to handle their business against Iowa. I think Michigan is going to finally make everyone realize what a fraud Iowa was. And Ohio State, the only prediction I'll make about this game is this. I believe that's going to be the de facto Big Ten championship game. First of all, because I anticipate both of those teams being top of the standings on the Big Ten East when they meet up. So that's going to decide the division. And I firmly believe either of those teams will beat anyone that comes out of the West. So I believe that will be the de facto Big Ten championship game. And I would go so far as to say there's a good chance both of those teams could go, they could be entering that game 11-0. And hopefully the committee will do the right thing and rank the number one and number two. Game of the century, here we come. And as far as afterwards goes, I think if Michigan State, again, I'm sorry, I think if Michigan does make it to the Big Ten championship, I expect them to win it because I think they can take on anyone from the West. As far as anything after that, here's my thing. I'm hesitant to pick Michigan for the playoff. And the reason has nothing to do with this team's talent or how well I think they'll match up against, say, the Alabamas or the Louisvilles or the Stanfords of the world. It's more to do with the fact that the committee only selects 4 teams for the playoff, which means at least one Power 5 conference is going to lose out. And it could be 2 this year if Houston somehow manages to sneak their way in. I personally think it's going to happen because I think if a group of 5 team makes it in over a Power 5 team, then people are going to riot. And we all know that if an SEC team does not make it, we're going to have an 8-team playoff by next year. So the reason I'm not predicting a playoff per se is because ultimately that's up to the nature of the committee. And I can't predict how they're going to feel. I mean, for all I know, they may decide they want to put 4 SEC teams in the playoff this year. I don't know. But if it gets later in the year where we're at a situation where logically you have to put Michigan in, otherwise there's shenanigans going on there, then I would be a bit more vocal about that. But at this moment right now, I'm going to reserve my judgment on anything regarding the playoff. But yeah, so to sum up my expectation for the season, I think 10 wins is now the baseline. Again, keep in mind, my expectation last year was 8 wins, and Michigan did better than that, so now I have to adjust everything up. So I think 10 wins is the baseline, and it's certainly doable when you see the schedule. And I expect Michigan to compete for the Big Ten championship. And the reason I say compete instead of outright win is because, once again, I believe the Big Ten championship is going to be decided between Michigan and Ohio State. And I haven't seen enough from Michigan to definitively say they can outclass Ohio State. I do believe that when it comes to Michigan State and Ohio State, they will beat at least one of those teams from here on out, and possibly both of them in some years, depending on talent. But I'm not going to sit here and act like Michigan is just going to be able to walk into the horseshoe and just stomp on Ohio State. I'm not going to do that. That's not being respectful to Urban Meyer and his crew. So we shall wait and see how that goes out. But I do anticipate that the winner of that game will win the Big Ten championship and will most likely go into the playoffs unless the committee says otherwise. Okay, so that's about it for this recap. Thank you very much for watching. It's so good to be back here. Next week we have Penn State, who, in an incredible display of tone deafness, decided that they were going to honor Joe Paterno today before kickoff of their game against Temple. Needless to say, I am going to enjoy stomping on them next week. But that's next week, and this is tonight. So I will sign off for now, and I will see you all next week. Go Blue.